and welcome to Leatherwork episode 1. Today we're going to have a look at all of the new tools, materials and supplies I've purchased to help get me started. The first thing I have is this leather suitcase. This is what I'm going to store all of my leather in and the tools. So this top section can be used for tools and pencils and pens and bits like that, whereas this bottom section can be used to put all of my leather and supplies in. So let's have a look at the leather I've purchased. Firstly though, let's have a look at some of the tools and supplies. So one of the first things I purchased is this leather cream. This is made by Lord Sheraton. It's really good stuff. I've used it before. It really helps bring out a nice colour to the leather. I also purchased some Westcott scissors just to help me rough cut out any bits of leather. The other couple of things I purchased were some Model Craft blades and a Weedo knife. Now I really like this modelling knife. It's a really nice fit. It's made of metal, which is really good obviously, and it's got this really nice ergonomic handle. I'm a particular fan of this because it feels nice in the hand and it's nice to work with for a long time. Now I would like to get a Matt Estley marking knife, but they're quite expensive and there's also quite a long waiting list for them. So for now I'm satisfied with this fairly cheap marking knife I purchased. It comes with a variety of 6 blades and I'll be having a go and experimenting with some of them. So the other couple of things I bought were some of these leather prongs. So they sort of look a bit like a fork. I'll do a zoomed up photo in a second. These are really useful though because if you're doing something like stitching leather, you want to be able to get equal spaced holes, and that's what you use these for. Then I also purchased a general supply of leatherworking things. So it comes with a couple of awls which are useful for starting the stitching process. Some needles. These are specialist leatherworking needles because you can't just use ordinary needles because leather is obviously quite thick. It then also comes with a variety of colours of thread. I think this is waxed cotton thread, but I'm not 100% sure on that. For now, I won't be using any of that at the moment because I think it's better just to experiment with the leather, get an idea of how it works. But I have got a lot of these different colours of threads. And the last thing that came in this pack was this tape measure. I'll check the accuracy of this against my accurate steel ruler so I can see whether I'm going to be using that or not. I'll also be using this stitching pony which I made. This is a very simple project. All you need is some scrap bits of wood. I used a bit of oak, a bit of poplar and a bit of zebrano thins to make the jaw insert. So essentially it works like a clamp and you put your leather in here. So for example this bookmark, you put it in here and then you can clamp it up like so, and then you can do your stitching on the top, and as you can see that is held in there nice and firmly. If I tighten up a bit more, you can see I can pretty much lift the whole of the stitching pony up just by that piece of leather. So this was a practice I had to go at with a bit of leather. These are some leather bookmarks. I just wanted to get a feel for how the leather was and how hard it was to cut. So I made a variety of shapes. The first one I did was this fairly simple design with a V cut out of it at the bottom and a curved edge. It's quite inaccurate, but for a first attempt I was very happy. I then used an offcut of the leather to make this sort of loop at the top, which is nice and adds a nice decorative touch to it. The second one I made was this very simple one, which is basically a rectangle with a curved edge, again making a nice hook at the top just for aesthetics. And the third one I did was a bit more complicated, doing these splayed edges. This was a bit of fun, but if I was to do it properly, I would make sure they're very equally spaced, so you don't have problems with them looking off-centered. And then I also did a nice hook at the top. So that's all I've done in terms of leatherworking, and I've really enjoyed having a go and just experimenting with a different material to work with. It's very different from working with wood, but I think it'll be an enjoyable process and something relaxing, as you don't have to wear dust masks and all those kind of things when cutting it, because it doesn't produce dust the same way wood does. Now on to the bit that everyone's most excited for, which is the leather. So I'll hold that up so you can see most of it. So in here we've got about 20 different pieces of leather. I'll do a quick show of all of those. So if you're interested in knowing anything more about the tools and materials I purchased, put a comment down below and I can either put a link in or tell you where I purchased them from. So this is just a nice piece of dark brown leather. I won't explain every one of them, I'll just pick out some of my favourites. A nice brown one, This is probably my favourite piece out of all of them. It's an orangey brown colour, and I think it's a really nice piece of leather. I've got a few of those. I've got some thicker pieces as well, such as this one. These are just some offcuts from the bookmark. Got a nice cream coloured piece of leather there. Slightly orangey one. Another browny black one. Again, another piece of this leather that I'm a particular fan of. I think this will be really nice for making a leather wallet I have planned. A leather wallet will be quite complicated, but as you can see, I have plenty of leather should I make a mistake. Another piece of browny black leather. This one's a lot thinner and might have been used for something like a sofa, I don't know, as these are offcuts after all. It smells really nice, and I'm pretty sure it is genuine leather. It did say 100% genuine leather when I purchased it, so I will trust that is correct. And then I have this really nice piece, which is very long. I don't know what I'm going to do with this yet. If you have any ideas, let me know, but for now, I'll just keep hold of it and have a think. And then we have another piece of this, which again is quite a long piece. An orangey brown piece again, but on a slightly different texture. And this slightly grey brown piece, which is very thick. That's the thickest piece I have, which I suspect is about 2 to 2.5 millimeters thick. So as you can see, there's a variety of leather here, and I haven't got much experience working with leather, so I think it'd be fun to share my experience with you guys, and we can work along together on it and see how we get on. Now, I am aware that you might not want to spend a lot of money on leatherworking. I haven't particularly spent very much here for the hobbies, because these kind of hobbies are quite expensive, but you don't need to spend a lot of money. I think in total, including all of the leather, the cost of the stitching pony, which is for me about £1 if I was to buy the hinges and the bolts and things, I think I spent under about £52, £53, something like that, on all of this kit, which I think is a very, very good deal. The suitcase was given to me, which is really nice, briefcase, sorry, and I'm going to be using this, as I said, to put all the leatherwork stuff away. So things like the knife can slot into here, or go here or there. It doesn't really matter, it's just all about having something nice to put your hobby into. And the good thing about leatherwork is you don't need a ton of space. I'm doing this on a pasting table outside to show you that you don't need a large workshop. You don't need to have an indoor space to do this. You can do this outside, you can do this wherever you would like. And I think it'd be really good to try and do as much of this outside as I can. If it's pouring with rain, I'll move the pasting table inside perhaps, and maybe do it inside. Now, I'm going to be getting rid of that box, and I'm going to be putting my leather in the bottom of this briefcase. Now, the reason I'm doing this is, one, it makes it easy to find everything, but it also makes it look nice. So when I open this bottom, I guess almost call it a drawer, like a hinged top or something, I can see all of the different pieces I have and don't have to rummage through them all. Now, I'm a particular fan of this piece of leather. As I said, it has a lovely feel to it, and this was the one I made my first bookmark out of. Surprise, surprise, if it's my favourite piece. It was quite easy to work. I was very surprised how sharp this Weedo knife was. I think this was a really good purchase, and I'm definitely looking forward to having a go with it. And obviously, I'm looking forward to the Matt Estley knife when I manage to get my hands on one of those eventually. So for now, we're just going to do a couple of projects, and then we'll build up to the leather wallet. So I think the first project I'll do is just a simple bookmark, something like this, but with a bit more refined shape to it. These were just done in the space of about 10 minutes for each one, 5 minutes, something like that, depending on the bookmark I went with. But what I want to be able to do is show you that you don't need a lot of tools and a big space, as I said. I think leatherworking will be a great hobby to get into, and I think it can really complement wood turning and woodworking. For example, if I was making a really nice box, you could do something funky with some leather on the top, or maybe even an inlaid leather lid, I don't know. Just some random ideas. And this leather pack that I got, I think, is a really, really good buy. It comes with a variety of colours. I went with the option of brown coloured leather, but I could have gone with a multicoloured section, which have had blues, reds, I think even some greens in there, but I think the brown leather looks a lot nicer and more professional. But obviously, that's up to your own opinion. If you do know how to work with leather and have any suggestions for me, please let me know, as I'll be really interested in your guys' feedback. I know a couple of you have done some leatherworking before, and it'll be great to hear how you guys have got on, and if there's anything you think I should give a go. The wallet, I think, will be quite challenging, but I definitely want to learn a lot doing this, and I'm going to try and do this for about 3 months off and on and build up my skills, and then I can just, after that, do it when I wish and with whatever projects I choose. So as you can see, including these bookmarks, all of that leather fits really nicely into this bottom compartment. Hopefully you can see that. So now we're going to have a look at the other bits and bobs in a bit more detail. So this leather cream is simply applied with basically like a rag or something like that, and you buff it in. I think it's a mixture of some waxes. Let's have a look. Beeswax and oils in a rich cream base, spreads easily and polishes instantly. So that sounds like it'll be a great, I guess, product to use. Now in terms of storing that, I think I'll just store that with the leather. So if I show you here, I can store that in here as well because there's plenty of space and it hasn't got any chance of leaking. And again, with these threads, I guess you can call them, I'm just going to store them down there as well. If you don't want to have these bits all in the same compartment, you could build a divider. When I get a bit more experience with leatherworking, I will build a tool roll for things like awls and other tools like that are quite sharp and you don't want them hurting you. Things like needles can be put into these pouches, so for example those can just go maybe there, and then these awls could just go into there, but I'm going to put the safety case on that just to protect myself when I'm getting them in and out. Now this does have some catches which sometimes work. It is a second-hand briefcase and there are a couple of faults with it, but for what I need it's perfect. I might put that one in there as well. It doesn't really matter how you do this, it's just ease of use. I think the knife, maybe, I don't know where I'm going to put the knife yet. I think I'll put the knife in the bottom compartment as well, and the blades can go in there actually. Don't really need them in the packet because they come in a handy little, I guess, container. And with leatherworking, I want to push the boundaries of what I can do with the amount of tools and experience I have. I think you can do a lot with not very much experience, and at the end of the day, I spent about £10 to £15 on the leather, which isn't a lot for the amount I've got, so I'm not too worried if some projects don't turn out quite how I wanted to, because there's a lot of scope for error, I guess, and I have enough materials here that I can expand what I do, and maybe even make something bigger after my leather wallet. We'll see how that goes first though. I'm then going to put my prongs in this dividing section here, so this is just going to go in here nicely because it fits in there rather well. And there's a little popper there. The blades I might just pop in there, or you could pop them down below as well. And the tape measure, and where should we put that? We'll pop that into there with the needles and the awls. If you have any ideas of things to make out of leather, I would appreciate that. I'm going to try and do a couple of things, maybe like a little multi-tool knife holder or something like that. But to be honest, there's so many things you can do, and as I said, it doesn't require too much time or money, and in my opinion, this is a good hobby to get into if you're interested in getting into a creative hobby, something that works with your hands. So that's everything fitted into my little briefcase, and then I've got all of the leather bits in the bottom there. I hope you've enjoyed watching episode 1 of the leatherworking series. If you have any questions or queries, please pop them down in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video.